Hello and welcome to another episode of Episodic Chance. I am your host, Chance, and today we'll be taking a look at one of my favorite franchises of all time, the Transformers. Starting out as a toy line with its own cartoon series in 1984, the concept of alien robots that can turn to vehicles is so simple, yet so effective, that even today at the time of this video's recording, Transformers still endures as a franchise juggernaut. The basic premise is that the good guy Autobots, led by Optimus Prime, battle the evil Decepticons, led by Megatron on Earth, with the Autobots wanting to protect the Earth and its inhabitants, while the Decepticons want to consume its resources for further conquest. In regards to the subject of today's episode, let me first explain my own history with Transformers. I was first introduced to the franchise through Transformers Cybertron, a series that ran from 2005 to 2006. Admittedly, I vaguely remember seeing some Transformers media before then, even owning a toy or two, but this show was what got me hooked on Transformers to begin with, so I'm going with that as my story. Then around 2007, the first Michael Bay film came out in theaters, and 10-year-old me kept wanting more. Luckily, I didn't have to wait too long, because later that year, Transformers Animated premiered on Cartoon Network. And it was this show in particular that really made me a Transformers fan. From there, I discovered websites like TFW 2005 and TFWiki.net, searching through middle school book fairs for any Transformers-related books, and even watching full episodes of the original G1 cartoon and Beast Wars on YouTube. This was back in the early days of YouTube, before big companies got stricter with copyrighted material. One of the first G1 episodes that I saw on YouTube back in the late 2000s is the episode that we'll be looking at today, Cosmic Rust. Airing on December 26, 1985, Cosmic Rust is the 45th episode in the show's second season. It may not seem like it at first, but elements from this one episode have greatly influenced Transformers lore in a surprising number of ways. I'll explain the hows of it later, but there's also some interesting influences that went into the making as well. Writer Paul Davids based his script around the idea of a lost ancient civilization similar to Atlantis that had been wiped out by the robotic equivalent of the Black Plague. Part of this Transformers disease was inspired by the then current AIDS crisis that was affecting America in the 1980s. Admittedly, the fall of Atlantis by way of AIDS is interesting, to say the least. As with a lot of Atlantis narratives, there is also the implication that the civilization's hubris was their downfall. Again, we'll look into that later. Before we get right into the episode proper, I want to quickly talk about the Season 2 intro. While not as iconic as the Season 1 intro, and admittedly the song for Season 1 is slightly better than Season 2, it's my personal favorite because of the animation. The fluidity of the transitions between one Transformer to the next feels natural and energetic. However, the last part is kind of meh to me, just a blank void where the characters are standing on laser crosshatches. But it's still cool to see Optimus and Megatron duke it out while getting sucked into a vortex. Cosmic Rust begins with Megatron, Starscream, Rumble, and Astrotrain in outer space. For some reason. It's never explained why they're out there, but they soon discover a planet with an Autobot symbol big enough to be visible from orbit. It would be really awkward if it turned out that planet was actually a robot in disguise. Landing on the planet's surface, the Decepticons are surprised to discover a ruined, lifeless city. Even Megatron is disturbed by it.
It's covered with inscriptions. Too bad none of us reads ancient Autobot.
As opposed to your native Decepticon, whose lexicon is made up of random squiggles and when spoken out loud sounds like this. Starscream activates a recorded message with a warning, but because this is fiction, the warning is incredibly vague and poetic in order to build suspense for the audience's sake.
If Cybertron be your home, far away, never roam. Hear my message, listen and fear. Danger comes, the end is near. Just like us, you soon will rust. All shall be turned to dust.
Also, I think this Autobot might have been a Jedi, judging by the sound effects. Despite the warning, the Decepticons continue further into the ruins where they discover a lightning bug, their words for it, not mine. Attempting to move the giant bug statue reveals it's some kind of heat ray, pleasing Megatron enough to want to use it against the Autobots. As they leave the planet, they're pursued by a strange asteroid, giving Megatron the opportunity to use his new weapon. Unfortunately, it kind of backfires on him.
Damage extreme.
Oh, you are lucky, Megatron. That shoulder wound would have been fatal if this was the 86 movie. On Earth, Starscream removes the asteroid chunk from Megatron's shoulder, but that quickly becomes the least of his problems.
What is this on my chest hole?
It looks like some sort of rust.
That is ridiculous. We are rust-proof.
Perhaps you were made of shoddy materials, Megatron.
Considering Megatron's creation in both this show's continuity and in the IDW comics, I wouldn't be so surprised if his makers actually did build him with shoddy materials. I mean, why else would he have a completely different appearance in every other show afterwards? Meanwhile, the Autobot scientist Perceptor is being awarded for his creation of Corostop, an anti-corrosive agent that preserves metal indefinitely. As a gesture of good faith, the Autobots plan to coat all of the world's greatest monuments with Corostop, but currently they only have enough for the Statue of Liberty. Considering the Statue of Liberty gets its iconic green color from a form of copper rusting, wouldn't that just remove the color entirely?
So of course, we wouldn't want the formula to be discovered by the Decepticons.
Which is why I am publicly announcing the existence of said formula in a way that the Decepticons would become aware of it, and oh dear, I didn't think this speech all the way through. While we're still in this scene, we get a brief cameo of the main human characters, Spike, Carly, and Sparkplug. What's interesting here is that from what I could find, this is the last on-screen appearance of Sparkplug in the entire cartoon. Seriously, he just disappears off the face of the earth after this episode. This is weird to me because Sparkplug was such a prominent character in the first season, often proving to be very helpful to the Autobots. I can only guess as to why he was phased out like this. Perhaps the showrunners wanted to focus more on Spike because he's much younger? Surprisingly, Sparkplug was supposed to appear in the Season 3 episode 5 Faces of Darkness Part 1, but he was removed from the final cut and his only line of dialogue was given to another character. Considering what happened to most of the Season 1 cast in the 86 movie, let's be thankful that Sparkplug wasn't part of that body count. I should also mention that Perceptor here is voiced by Paul Eating. Eating is best known as the voice of Colonel Roy Campbell from the Metal Gear Solid series, Grandpa Max Tennyson from Ben 10, and that crazy guy from that one episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I also know him as the voice of almost every old man in Fallout 3. What, don't believe me? Here's a clip show I made just to prove my point.
I suppose I could talk to him. People comma weather! Huh? Yeah, what is it? What? How? How did you get in here? Call me daring. Everyone else does. My 4 is useless without you, boy. Those Mr. Handshakers and whatnot. I was shooting my gun when you were still an itch in your daddy's pants. Are you mocking me, comrade? Oh, how we do love enthusiasm in our employees. And it's all thanks to him. I look after the animals, cook our meals, worth every cap. A most generous offer. God bless you. I don't want to be a slave. I was just confused before. My dearest little moonbeam. You'll have to speak up. You can't begin to know how happy I am to finally speak with you.
Here's another fun fact about Paul Eating. Both this and The Face of Najika are his favorite episodes from the G1 cartoon. See if you can guess why. As promised, the Autobots waste no time in coating the Statue of Liberty with Corostop.
Yahoo! Come on, aerial bots! We're gonna spray old Lady Liberty!
Could you phrase that any less dirty? Hey look, Rumble switched sides and is helping the Autobots. That or Gears decided to dress up as Rumble for Halloween for whatever reason. Also, how is the statue able to support the weight of 5 giant robots? Does Corostop allow metal to be load-bearing too? Megatron's health seems to be deteriorating, so he orders the Stunticons to capture Perceptor to figure out what's wrong with him. I'm gonna go on a whim here and say that you're kind of jumping the gun here, Megatron. Wouldn't you want any of your own personnel checking you before you kidnap the enemy scientist? I know Shockwave's not a scientist in the original series, but you'd think he would have access to historical and scientific records that could be useful. Heck, Starscream in this continuity used to be an explorer. Maybe he's seen something during one of his expeditions. Then again, this is Starscream we're talking about. He'd probably withhold that info as part of some convoluted scheme to usurp leadership from Megatron. Perceptor is brought to Megatron where, good lord Megatron, you have a guest present. Would it kill you to take a shower? Anyway, Megatron tells Perceptor that if he can figure out what's making him sick, he'll consider making peace with the Autobots. I highly doubt that, but Perceptor doesn't really have any options here. Upon examination, Perceptor determines that Megatron has been infected with a metallic plague. the titular cosmic rust.
Legend has it, it wiped out entire races of robots, like the Black Plague did to humans.
Perceptor is also able to deduce that the asteroid chunk was carrying cosmic rust germs, and they're drawn to the energy emitting from the lightning bug, which is causing the disease to spread quicker. Perceptor recommends destroying the heat ray, but Megatron protests.
Kill me now! Now look what you've done!
Is it just me, or is Megatron kind of whiny in this episode? Unfortunately, Perceptor reveals his Corostop to Megatron, who just lathers the stuff all over him, giving him an illustrious chrome finish. At the Autobot base, Optimus Prime is contacted by Megatron, who not only wants to show off his new shiny form, but to tell him that he's releasing Perceptor at a nearby canyon. The catch here is that he's tied up Perceptor, and if Optimus doesn't reach him by noon, the sunlight focusing through his lenses will ignite the bomb at the base of his microscope form. Optimus decides to rally all his available troops to retrieve Perceptor, which seems like overkill to me, but I guess you can't be too careful with the Decepticons. He is able to save Perceptor, but now he and the other Autobots are infected with cosmic rust.
My hands. Cosmic rust. I had no choice. I had to rescue Perceptor.
To make matters worse, Megatron is using his heat ray on the base to spread the disease faster so he can watch them suffer. This does raise the question of how none of the Decepticons were infected earlier. Despite both Astrotrain and Starscream being visibly exposed to the asteroid, Megatron is the only one infected. Do the Decepticons just have better disease prevention than the Autobots? It's here where we get an explanation for where cosmic rust came from. According to Teletran 1, the planet at the beginning of this episode, called Antilla, was once a thriving Autobot colony millions of years ago. But then asteroids carrying cosmic rust germs fell on the planet, wiping out its inhabitants. The episode seems to imply that it was the Antillans' hubris that did them in, with the lightning bug inadvertently feeding the disease and causing it to spread uncontrollably. While I can understand seeing it this way, I don't really think the hubris aspect is that well executed. Maybe it's too subtle for me to pick up, but there isn't much that indicates the Antillans were that prideful. Ignorant, perhaps, but to me it seems more like it was just a complete accident. No cure was ever found for cosmic rust, although Teletran 1 suggests that Corostop may be the next best thing. Unfortunately, the Autobots no longer have the ingredients necessary to make more, which prompts Wheeljack to suggest using a machine called the Matter Duplicator.
The Matter Duplicator. But it doesn't work. It never worked.
Besides, it has only ever been mentioned in this episode and will never be mentioned again. With the situation as dire as it is, Perceptor and Wheeljack do it anyway, and to no surprise, they get the machine to work. Perceptor suggests scraping samples of Corostop from the Statue of Liberty to make an antidote, but the Decepticons catch wind of this and try to get there before the Autobots. On Liberty Island, Megatron orders the Stunticons to merge into Menasor, using the lightning bug to destroy the statue. But then the Autobots come out of hiding, literally on the Statue of Liberty itself, and a fight ensues. The aerial bots arrive, combining into Superion and fighting Menasor over the lightning bug. Menasor is defeated and Superion destroys the bug. Without his heat ray, Megatron just gives up and tells his forces to retreat. The episode ends with the Autobots victorious, no longer having to worry about cosmic rust, and Bumblebee gets the last word.
And we saved the lady at the same time.
Lady?
That one.
And that was Cosmic Rust. I admit I'm a bit biased because of nostalgia, but this was a good episode, if a bit goofy. But then again, a lot of 80s cartoons are like that. The concept of a Transformers disease is definitely an interesting one to explore, not to mention learning more about the Transformers universe along with it. I mentioned earlier that this episode contributes a surprising amount of lore for the franchise, and believe it or not, it's not just with the titular disease. Remember that mural at the beginning of the episode written in ancient Autobot? Writer and huge Transformers fan Jim Sorensen created a substitution cipher used to encode hidden messages based off of the symbols from that mural, which has since been used commonly in official Transformers media. The Royal Mail Prestige stamp book even gave this alphabet the name Cybertronica Serenza in honor of its creator. High Moon Studios also made their own version for the War for Cybertron video games, and while that version isn't as prominent as Sorensen's version, it has made some appearances here and there. Antilla, the planet where Cosmic Rust originated from, has reappeared on several occasions. It played a major role in the 2005 IDW Comics continuity, wherein the planet was the site of a failed colonization effort by early Cybertronian civilization. Faced with extinction, the surviving Antillans constructed a doomsday weapon that would deter the Cybertronians from conquering their planet, and through a combination of magic and science resulted in Antilla becoming that universe's version of Unicron. So my joke earlier about the planet being a transformer was pretty apt here. As for the disease itself, Cosmic Rust has frequently appeared throughout the franchise's history, sometimes going by different names like the Rust Plague or Red Rust, because the original name sounds a bit cartoonish. Some stories depict it as how it was in the G1 cartoon, albeit on a galactic scale, which in turn led to the events that would cause the Great War to happen. Other stories depict it being used as a bioweapon, often by the Decepticons or some other antagonist. If you want to learn more about it, I'd recommend watching Chris McFeely's Transformers The Basics video on Cosmic Rust to get a full scope of how the disease has been used in the franchise. It certainly helped me in researching for this video. Well, that's all for me today. I am Chance, and thank you for watching.